Hi all, I hope you're doing well and welcome to this Cine Circle webinar. The first things first, it would be fantastic if you guys could just give me a quick thumbs up in the comments, if you can see me okay, if you can hear me okay, if everything's working. Most important is that you see this presentation on the screen and that you can hear that, what I'm saying. So it'd be fantastic if you guys could give me a quick thumbs up on that, and we will get started on today's webinar. Cool. I believe that you guys should be able to hear me, and I'm getting some comments that you guys can hear me, which is great. All right, fantastic. So let's get started. Today's webinar is all about online film distribution, and we are mainly going to be talking about really independent film distribution where you do not have big budgets, you do not have the budgets, for massive ad spend, you don't have budgets for big marketing campaigns, but you might have just a little bit of budget, and you're essentially trying to get your film out there and getting as many people to see it as possible. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to build your audience and also how to actually distribute your film online and some of the most important strategies when doing so. Okay, so let's get started with a little bit of an introduction to how this webinar came about. Over the last couple of years at Cine Circle, we interviewed producers, distributors, aggregators, PR consultants, as well as multiple different marketing experts. And we essentially tried to put together all the most up-to-date information about how to actually distribute your film online from all of these different perspectives, from the PR perspective, from the marketing point of view, from the distributor point of view. By the way, I can see that you guys can't see me. I believe, I'm not sure why, but as long as you guys can see the presentation, that's the most important thing over here. Okay, so in this webinar, we will be essentially walking through the main strategies for releasing a profitable indie film online. And we will be going through how to create marketable films. We're going to be talking a little bit about audience research. We're going to be talking about building pre-existing communities. We're going to be talking about online accounts and pages, aggregators and distributors, as well as a distribution strategy and essentially the conclusion. Now, throughout the webinar, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'll be able to take a look at them and try and answer all the questions as I go along. The webinar will last probably about 45 minutes or so, depending on how many questions you guys have, just to let you know. So let's start off with the first topic, which is actually all the way at the very, very beginning of, making a film, which is, picking your projects, which is actually a really, really important thing. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit before moving to the bulk of the webinar, which is going to be talking about distribution. So creating a marketable film is extremely important. So when releasing a film online, it helps massively to pick a type of film with a strong pre-existing audience. For example, if you're making an indie horror film, that's a very sort of specific genre that has some very, very strong audiences and fans, or a documentary film about Bigfoot, for example, where you have these niche audiences that really, really love those kinds of films. That is going to help you massively when you're distributing a film online, because you will already have this pre-existing audience there that you won't have to build from scratch. Now, this is why it's so difficult to have a drama film actually become really successful, because you don't have this pre-existing community around the sort of the topic of the film or the genre of the film, which essentially means that what most studios do is they go for name actors to bring that pre-existing audience into that kind of a film. Or you can also pick a film with a subject that will spark a debate, something that people will talk about. So, for example, a documentary about a conspiracy theory, a drama film about assisted suicide. these kinds of topics that will really spark a debate, because essentially what you will have to rely on a lot when you're distributing a film without a budget is this word of mouth and this echo chamber effect that people will tell other people about your film. And that's a lot easier to do when you have this kind of topic that will really spark a debate. If someone watches a film about assisted suicide, they're going to start talking to their friend about it and say, hey, I just watched this film about assisted suicide. What do you think about the topic? And because of that, the word will spread a lot more than if it's just, a regular film. And picking a project with a subject that you're genuinely and extremely interested in, or a genre that you absolutely love, is also really, really crucial. So if you're shooting a horror film, ask yourself, would I go to a horror film festival? Am I part of any horror online or offline communities? Do I speak to people about horror films? Do I know a lot of recent and older horror films? And am I genuinely interested in horror films? Ask yourself those questions, because as someone who is going to be, leading the distribution of the film, you're going to need to be really, really interested in the topic of that film and know your audience. And it's a lot easier to know your audience if you are your audience. And that will help you know where to find people who will want to buy or watch your film. And then the final point that I want to make before we move on to the actual distribution part is just keep making movies, because it's extremely unlikely that one project will make you a lot of money. So don't spend 5 years working only on one feature film. Make a lot of different films. One of the people we interviewed when we were creating this webinar and all of our distribution courses is Jason Horton, who makes a living from self-distributing low indie budget feature films. And he makes one feature film a month. And that's how he lives off making feature films. He makes one a month. And every single one of those films will make him probably not a whole lot of money, but because he's making one a month and continuously making these films, after a while, he has income from 50, 60, 70, 80 feature films all coming in each month. And that's how you can sustain a living from it. It's extremely unlikely that you will make one independent feature film, release it without a budget, and that will be able to be your income for the next few years. So keep making movies. Now, let's start with the first topic of the bulk of this webinar, which is audience research. So before you distribute the film, you need to know who your audience is. Therefore, the first step of every distribution plan is to figure out who that audience is. Most likely, your film is going to have multiple types of viewers, and those people will be interested in your film for very different reasons. So don't be too specific at first, but simply put together a big list of the kinds of people who essentially would be interested in your film. So, think about what the topic of the film is. Think about the broader topic of the film. Is the film about racism? Is the film about gender equality? Is, those kinds of topics. Think about the genre on the film. Is it an action film? Is it a horror film? Is it a drama? What kind of, genre it is? And then think about, any kind of specific things within your film that make it unique, and try to find niche audiences that will find that uniqueness really interesting. And what you will have is you will start building your audience persona. So if you're making, an indie drama film about mental health, you will have a lot of different audiences. For example, you will have, indie, drama film lovers, indie film fans, mental health supporters, and then, and probably many, many more. But you will have this bit in the middle, which is going to be your ideal audience member, a person who falls into as many of those categories as possible. So it's really important to identify that person, because that person is going to be the perfect viewer for your film. And this is the person that you want to try to go after. But you can see here on the side, it's not as simple as an indie drama film about mental health. What are some of the other topics and themes? Is it about parenthood, domestic abuse, drug abuse, socio-political topics? What is the location of the film? Is it in a specific town in the UK that people from that town might be really interested in? Does it have strong female characters? Does it have a diverse cast that, people would be interested in? Does it have any notable actors? And so on. All of those individual little things can give you more and more reach and more people who would be interested in your film for different reasons. So start as broad as possible, gather as many of these ideas, and then try to find who is that ideal audience member in the middle. So where can you find your audience? And no matter how niche or broad, the topic of your film, you will first of all have thousands and thousands of Facebook groups where your audience consumes content. And not just Facebook groups, but Reddit threads, Twitter accounts, and a lot of different other online platforms where your audience consumes content right now. And it's really important to find those kinds of groups. And this is also the reason why it's important, or I find it really important, to make films about topics that you love, because it will make this bit way easier. You might already be part of all of these online communities, which will make promoting your film there a lot simpler to do. So get on these platforms, whatever they may be, and learn more about your audience. What do they like about similar films to yours? What do they hate? Note down phrases that they keep using, for example, in which you can therefore later use in your description and your promotional copy. So note down any phrases, such as we want a really kind of gory horror film, or we want a action film that's got a bit of heart and comedy in it. Try and really kind of figure out what are the things that people are looking for. So when they're looking for a horror film, they might be looking for a specific kind of horror film. And remember those key phrases, because when you're creating the description of your film, when you put it up on Amazon, when you put it up on FilmHub or any other of these online distributors, you will be able to use those specific key phrases that people are going to be searching for in order to get more exposure. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But first things first, if you don't have the budget to create an audience and create a community, you want to start off with pre-existing communities. And being part of online communities can be extremely valuable, but only if you do it right. So you're going to have to start a long time before you release your film, because this process takes time to really become a valuable member of the community, rather than someone who just comes in and spams a link. So don't spam or self-promote until you have become that trusted person. And this will not only make people more likely to click on your link to watch your film, but it can massively increase the reach of your promotion for free. Because the thing that I hear about Facebook groups most often is, I post my link in groups, but no one is engaging. Why? Well, no one is seeing your posts. In large Facebook groups, the algorithm will almost completely hide all spam, self-promotion, and essentially other content that Facebook thinks people will not engage with. But if you become a valued member of the group first, create highly engaging content on a regular basis, then people will actually see your posts. So what I'd recommend is, when you first come into a Facebook group, look at what other people are posting. Try and engage with those people's posts. Just comment on a couple of people's posts. If you comment on their post and they reply to your comment, that will count as that person engaging with you. When Facebook sees that, Facebook's algorithm will then be triggered to think that that person is going to be interested in your content. Therefore, when you post, on the next time you post in a Facebook group, they will actually see your content. And if they like it, Facebook will think maybe other people will like it, and they will start to show it to more and more people. So first thing, when you go into all of these Facebook groups or other online communities, whether it's Reddit, Twitter, etc., first engage with other people. make them engage with you back. And only once you've got your engagement, that's when you actually start promoting your film. So let's talk a little bit about online accounts and pages. And let's start off with social media accounts, because it is important to have a presence on social media, although we're going to talk a little bit about, whether it's really that important. So if you don't already have one, create a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account, but don't create it for your specific film. What I would really highly recommend is to only create these social media accounts for your production company or you as the content creator. But don't create one for every new film that you create. Why? Because then every single time you have a new film, you're going to need to create new accounts and build them up from 0 followers to whatever you want to get them. Whereas if you've got a Facebook page for your production company, every single time you create a new film, your account will keep growing and growing and growing in reach. And you will begin to create your own fan base rather than just a fan base for every individual film that you create. And, so this should be used for all future projects. You will also need to run ads probably at some point through those Facebook pages or Instagram accounts. And if you do that to try and get more people to view or buy your film, as a byproduct of running those ads to get more viewers, you will also be growing your Facebook page. If you run ads from your Facebook page for people to click and go to your Amazon account, you will still be growing your Facebook followers through those ads. So therefore, with every single film, your online presence will grow and you will start to grow your own fan base. So building your own social media following. Facebook is, a really, really great place where, your cast, crew, your social circles can come and share your posts to their own timelines. It's a great place for, building a community around your film. But I'm going to put it out there from the start. You will not get a huge amount of traffic from your organic social media. So don't try to spend, 50% of your time just growing your Facebook page or your Instagram account, because that is not going to be the main source of where you're getting your traffic from. The traffic that's going to either your, Amazon page, your wherever it might be, iTunes or wherever, or YouTube or wherever you're promoting your film, you're not going to be getting that much traffic from there. So it's a good place to kind of grow a little bit of exposure, but don't spend too much time on it. And, like I mentioned, with every single project, your presence will grow as a byproduct of you promoting your film through the pages. Setting up an IMDb page. So this is really, really important for your film, for getting credibility, getting reviews. So you really want to make sure that when you've got your IMDb page, you fill in all of the information. The only thing that I would consider not filling in, and you want to really go, for the release date, company credits, pretty much everything, you want to put in as much information as possible. But I would consider, and from all the producers that I've spoken to, the consensus is that if you have a really low budget feature film, consider leaving out the budget, because that will scare a lot of reviewers away. When there's people who want to review your film, and or even people who want to view a film, they might look it up on IMDb first. And if they see that you've made a feature film for $10,000 or £10,000, they might very well just look at that and go, yep, I am definitely not going to watch that because I think it's not going to be good, even though it can be incredible, because we all know you can have some films with budgets over $1 million that are way worse than films that have been made on a 0 budget. But people have this unconscious bias towards these micro budget films. So consider leaving out the budget if it is really low. Next, create a website, but again, most likely unnecessary for your specific project, but you should have one for your production company. So you can use a service like Wix or WordPress, and you want to create this website for your production company where you can also promote your films. You can start a blog to improve your SEO and gain monthly traffic. You can even use it to create landing pages if you want to run conversion ads. I'm going to talk slightly a little bit more about that later as well. But you might want to create, a website for your production company. Again, it gives it a bit more credibility. It will most likely give you more reviews as well, because people, will see that, they'll see the film, they'll see that it's from a production company that has a good looking website. They'll be more likely to leave a review, which will help you in the future. Aggregators and distributors. So let's break this down into, moving into the actual distribution bit right now. So first of all, you've got traditional distributors. These people, these companies essentially help you with everything. So they help you release the film online, on DVD, possibly in cinemas, and, all the other places, whether it might be, on planes, hotels, etc. So they will try to release your film wherever possible, online and offline. Traditionally, this is the best option for you, because you will then be able to give that film to someone who really knows what they're doing. Most likely they will give you, the best distribution overall, and you can then let them do that while you move on to making your next film. Because remember, it's important to keep making movies rather than spending too much time on just distribution and spending this time on distributing just one film. But be careful with any deals that you accept, because I've heard so many horror stories from so many producers about accepting a wrong deal from a distribution company, or a distribution company that's not a particularly good one, and just having a nightmare. So a lot of people really read the fine print of your agreement, because a lot of them will try to lock you in for, for example, a 5-year period where you won't be able to release the film yourself, even if they don't release it for you. So you essentially, get locked into a period where you can't do anything with your film unless they do something with it. Or, I've heard horror stories of people actually, getting deals where they said, we will, give you some sort of a payment in 2 years' time, no matter whether we release the film or not, we will give you a certain payment. And in 2 years' time, they don't release the film, and they say, you know what? You can sue us, but we're not going to release the film. And in that kind of situation, you're also put in a very difficult spot, because are you really going to put money on to sue them and, and spend the next few years of your life in court? Probably not. So really think about the deals, and think about whether you're locked in with that kind of a deal, and how much, flexibility you've got as a filmmaker in case this distributor doesn't deliver. Next, you've got digital distributors. So these are essentially similar to traditional distributors, but they will only help you get your films on different online platforms, and to an extent they will help to promote the film for you. So one of the most famous one is indie film rights, and this is essentially, an online distributor. They will, help you put your film on a lot of different online platforms. They will help you promote it a little bit, but a sort of little comment over here about digital distributors, you will still have to do a lot of work. So it will help you, but you will still be the one driving a lot of the traffic to the, to the sites where your film is being sold. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, we've got aggregators. So aggregators are essentially companies where you usually pay a one-off fee to get your film on a specific platform, such as Tubi, such as Google Play, such as iTunes. Now, you can put your film by yourself. If you want to, put your film on Amazon, you can do that. You can go on Amazon and you can throw your film on there by yourself. You can't put your film on iTunes by yourself. iTunes doesn't deal with individuals. It only deals with aggregators and with bigger companies who are putting in a lot of projects at the same time. So this is where aggregators come in. And in a sense, digital distributors act as aggregators, but they give you a little bit of extra help in terms of promoting things as well. These are your three options really when it comes to working with distributors and aggregators. But one thing that I also really recommend, and this is what a lot of the producers that I've worked with recommend, if you don't get a distribution deal, the next best thing is usually FilmHub. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how it works and why I think it's usually one of the best options. So first of all, there is a 80-20 split, which means that you will get 80% of all of the profits from all of the sales from the film, and FilmHub will get 20%. Essentially, all films are accepted to FilmHub, right? And it's really easy to use. But the problem with FilmHub and essentially the way that FilmHub works is you put your film up on FilmHub, and there will be about 100 different online places and online streaming providers that FilmHub will pitch your film to. And they will then say, yep, we want this film, or no, we don't want your film. So those might be, Amazon, for example, is one, Tubi is another, all of these different platforms, and it will try to get you on as many of these platforms as possible. The good thing is it acts as an aggregator for you in a sense. So, for example, Tubi, it might get you on Tubi if your film is good enough, which you would not be able to do yourself. And it will also help you get onto a lot of different platforms, which otherwise, if you're doing it one by one yourself, I think normally you will end up worse off than if you just put it on FilmHub and let them do the work for you. And I'm going to break this down a little bit into AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD and what those are. So AVOD is the advertising-based video on demand, which essentially is a little bit like YouTube. So you go on YouTube and you're watching a video, and advertisements will come up, and the video will be completely free, but advertisements will come up, and that's how they make money. They make money off advertising. So you will get paid, usually per minute or hour streamed, right? It's usually per hour streamed. You will, get paid per that. Then you have SVOD, which is the subscription video on demand. And the best example of that is Amazon Prime or Netflix. You pay a certain subscription, and then you can watch all the films on there for free. Now, again, you will probably get paid, per hour that your film is streamed on those platforms. And then finally, you have TVOD, which is transactional video on demand, which is you actually selling your film. So you saying, I'm going to sell my film. If you want to buy it, it's $7.99 or $2.99 or whatever to buy my film. And then example of that is, of course, the non-Prime version of Amazon, for example, where you can go on and you can buy an actual film to watch. Now, my recommendation is that you probably shouldn't use TVOD unless you have a notable cast, unless you have a very topical subject, a bigger budget, or a larger email list, or bigger marketing spend, because it's really, really difficult these days to get someone to buy a film and to pay for a film, especially an indie film, when you've got so many big budget films that you can watch for free on Netflix or on Amazon, for example. So I would really recommend sticking to AVOD and SVOD. So let me break down FilmHub a little bit. So essentially how it works, you upload your film, FilmHub reviews your film based on a series of technical requirements and offers them to many different platforms. And the platforms decide which films they would like to select. And you can view your revenue analytics through FilmHub, and FilmHub then pays you quarterly, I believe. So essentially, the most important thing with FilmHub and the questions that I get, FilmHub has its own internal algorithm. So some of the questions that I get is, okay, well, FilmHub is going to take 20% of all of my sales. So if I'm allowed to put Amazon on my, if I'm allowed to put my film on Amazon for free, why would I pay FilmHub 20% to do it for me? Why don't I just put my film on Amazon and then put it on FilmHub and get all the platforms that I can't get on myself? I'll just use FilmHub for that. And that's kind of what I thought a few years ago, and then I realized, and a lot of producers told me the same thing, which is that if you put your film on FilmHub without any restrictions, it will first add it to all the free services. So, Amazon Prime, for example. If it starts doing well on on Amazon Prime, then it will start adding it to Tubi and all the other platforms. So you really need to keep, all the platforms free that FilmHub offers. Let FilmHub put it on some of the free ones, start to get views, start to get some revenue into FilmHub, and then it will start showing it to more and more of the online streamers and services. But don't stop just at FilmHub. You can use other platforms, but just make sure that you're not using ones that FilmHub works with. So you can, for example, download a Chrome plugin called Similar Sites, which is a free plugin, which will give you essentially a list of similar websites than the one that you're in. So you can go on Amazon, you can go on YouTube, you can go on other platforms, and it will show you a bunch of other platforms that are similar to Amazon, for example. And then you can look through the list of platforms that FilmHub uses on the link below. So you just up filmhub.com/owners/outlets. And you can then see, okay, well, which one of the thousands platforms that are on the internet does FilmHub not use? And then you can try to put your film up on all the other different platforms. And this is a big way of trying to actually make money from indie films, which is if your film is on 50 different platforms, you will be getting views from all of them. And even if it's small amounts of money per month from each platform, that will all add up to something that will be slightly more substantial. If you only put your film up on Amazon Prime, for example, you're going to really struggle again with actually, making enough money that, that the film will have been worthwhile. So here is the, big strategy over here. Getting your film on as many platforms as possible rather than just one. You then might want to, put a lot of your traffic into one specific, platform that's doing really well, for example, Amazon Prime. And then you want to start running ads towards that. But at the start, you want to be on as many platforms as possible. Okay, and let me know, guys, if you have any questions about this so far. But if not, I'm going to move on to the distribution strategy. And before I start with the strategy, I want to, essentially present to you guys the big issue. The issue with a distribution strategy and promoting your film is that Amazon will pay roughly 1 cent for every hour that your film is streamed. Other platforms, might be the same, might be even less. Now, when you think about traditional advertising, for example, running paid Facebook ads, getting a click for 1 cent or even half a cent is a very good result. Now, not everyone who clicks on a link will watch at least an hour of your film, which is what you would need to break even, which means you will never ever run profitable ads. And unless you understand the platform's algorithm, you're actually going to have a big problem. But this is the one thing that I want you guys to understand. When you're running ads, you're not trying to run profitable ads. Instead, you're trying to trick the algorithm into doing, into promoting the film for you. So Amazon and other platforms, they work similar to Facebook and Google in the sense that they have algorithms. And these algorithms decide which films they will promote to visitors, which is why when you go on Amazon Prime, the first films that come up are either going to be blockbusters that, have an enormous amounts of views. And these will appear, these blockbusters, they will get so many views because they appear at the top of everyone's page. Or if you go into Amazon, you might get films that aren't well known. And that's because you watched similar content. Right? So again, it's essentially showing stuff that they think you will like. And I'm going to answer, Patrice, you had a question, how does all of this apply to shorts, or does it? So that's very, very good question. And in terms of shorts, it's very, very difficult to actually make money from short films. So you can use these strategies for trying to distribute short films, but in general, short films will not make you money, right? It's very, very few people will pay for short films, which is why what we recommend is, even if you're making, really, really low budget films, try to make features rather than shorts. You can use these strategies to try and distribute shorts, but it's going to be very, very difficult because, again, people, watch features. That's where the money is at. It's really, really difficult to actually make money from short films. So coming back over here, in terms of the strategy is not actually how to promote your film as best as you can, but how do you get platforms to promote it for you? How can you, in a way, trick the algorithms in order to promote the film for you? So this means that, for example, any paid advertising, you are not looking for a direct ROI. You are not looking for a direct return on your ad spend or your investment. It means that the effort you put to social media promotion to get one person to watch your film will not equal 1 cent in revenue. Instead, everything we're doing is to help put your title in the best position on the platforms. So as more and more people start to view your film, more Amazon and and Tubi and all the other platforms will start to show your film to more and more people. So what affects the algorithms? Well, engagement with your title is the biggest one, right? So, views, likes, clicks, purchases, watch time. So on Amazon, if you have a film and, people are, a lot of people are coming onto your page and starting to watch your film, but everyone drops off after a minute because the film just isn't any good, for example, or people don't find it interesting, you're not going to get any kind of spike in the algorithm showing your film to other people. They will actually see it as the algorithm will see it as a negative thing, that people aren't watching your film. So the watch time, the average watch time, is a very important metric. Whereas if people come onto people who start watching your film all watch it through to the end and finish it and like it and and leave a review, for example, on Amazon will start to see that, oh, people are really liking this film. Let me show it to more and more people. And if people keep watching the film, I'm going to show it continuously to more and more. And that way, over a period of time, you can start to have this much bigger organic reach where people for free will just be watching your film more and more without you having to send the traffic. But at the start, traffic is really important. So this is why I was talking about, promotion on Facebook groups, promotion for Facebook ads, and in any other way that you can, sending traffic to that page and sending traffic of people who you think will watch the film until the end is really, really crucial, because you're going to need to do that first yourself. And if you do, then those platforms will start to promote the film for you. But at the start, don't worry about a direct return on your investment. If you're running Facebook traffic ads, just try to, get as many people on there as possible. Next, reviews, both internal and external. So what I mean by that, internal is, for example, a review on Amazon. External is a review on IMDb or someone who wrote a blog about you, etc. You really want as many reviews as possible because they do help with building that algorithm as well. For anyone that doesn't know, IMDb is owned by Amazon, so any reviews that you have on IMDb, they will massively help in tricking the algorithm on Amazon, or not tricking, but causing the algorithm on Amazon to show your film to more and more people. So having a lot of reviews on IMDb is really important, which is why it's also so important to have that really good IMDb page. And also much, much more, because there are a lot of different platforms and you need to do your own research as to all the individual platforms that you're on and what are the different algorithms that might be there and how do they work and what is the best way to promote your films on all the other platforms. But this is essentially that strategy. First, put your film on as many of the platforms as possible. Next, pick a few, such as, for example, Amazon or other ones. Direct as much traffic as possible of people who you think will watch as much of your film as possible without worrying about a direct return on investment right away, and grow that reputation of your film on the platforms, which will then cause the algorithms to continuously promote your film to more and more people for possibly years and years to come. And then finally, keep making more and more films so that all those profits from each film layer up, right? So eventually you're actually continuously making profit or sales from 10, 20, 30 different films each month rather than just one. And that's going to be the way that you will be able to sustainably live from, making indie films and releasing them yourself online. So my conclusion in future projects is, make marketable films with topics that you're truly interested in. If you want to make a profitable film from indie, film distribution, make the film on a low budget. If you're going to spend 100K on a really indie film and you don't have any money for distribution, it's going to be really, really difficult to make that 100K back unless you get a, not just an online distribution deal, but also a real distribution deal. Always leave some budget for marketing, which is really, really important. So if you are making a film for 100K, you should consider saving 20K. And I know it's really difficult because, it's already a tight budget for a feature film, but you should consider leaving 20% of that budget just for marketing. Then work smart, not hard. Don't just promote your film, get the algorithms to promote it for you. And finally, keep making movies, because again, you want to have those layers of sales every single month and more coming in rather than less and less. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Do let me know if you have any questions, but that is going to be it for the webinar for today. So feel free to put any other questions you might have in the comments. I also wanted to let you guys know that we do have a full 4-hour detailed course about online distribution, where we go into exactly the SEO around what to put in the description of a film, into how to get reviews, how to get good PR for your film, which PR agencies to use. We're also talking about I actually give you a tour of a Facebook ad account, how to create a Facebook ads for your film, and so on. So if you are interested on taking this full course in online film distribution, there is a link just underneath this YouTube video. And this course is on Udemy, and you guys actually get a 75% discount here today on that course if you are interested in this. But I hope that you guys really enjoyed this introduction into online film distribution. I hope that you found it useful. We try to put as much useful information as we can into this 45-minute webinar. So I hope that you guys found it useful. But again, do let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll stick around for another 20, 30 seconds or so to give you guys a chance to add that into the chat. Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Like I mentioned, if you guys, if you guys would like to go and have more information into this, then check out the course below. At CineCircle, we also do a lot of other events, so you can check us out on Eventbrite. And also on this YouTube channel, we do quite a few other webinars and online events. So you can actually take a look at some of our pre-recorded past webinars. So if you guys want to check out the YouTube channel, there's quite a few different videos on crowdfunding, film funding, talks with different distributors, and so on. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. But for now, thanks so much for joining us, guys. I hope that you found it useful, and hope to see you at the next CineCircle event. Thanks so much, and take care.